Angels. They won an American League best 98 games last season, but they were swept in the division series. Maybe that's because they didn't have Garrett Richards, who tore his patellar tendon in August. But today, Richards threw his first bullpen session since the injury. And to get a little bit more info on that, let's check in with our MLB Network Angels correspondent, Alden Gonzalez, who joins us right now from the Big A. So, how did that first bullpen session go for Garrett Richards?
Yeah, this was a big test for Garrett today. First time off a mound since he ruptured his left patellar tendon. It went good. Everything went fine. No unexpected complications, but it was a really light session. Only 20 pitches, all fastballs. He only threw from the stretch to kind of limit the tension of his left knee that got operated on. They're going to work Garrett Richards along slowly, but his rehab process has gone really well so far. He's basically hit every check mark. He's been playing catch since early December, which is not any more different than it would have been for any offseason for him. He's been running since the second week of January. He ran with his full body weight for the first time last Tuesday. And the simple fact that he's going to go into spring training having already thrown at least one bullpen session, I think is a big plus. He's gonna be slightly behind the other starters when camp opens up because these guys have thrown a handful of bullpen sessions already. But now is when it's going to get really interesting for Garrett, because now is when that mental hurdle is going to come in of continually landing on that leg when his bullpen sessions get the intensity increases. Now is when he's going to start getting into games, trying to get ready for the season. He said he's been targeting opening day ever since he had the surgery, and they told him that he could come back in 6 months. The Angels are going to be really cautious with him because he's the most important member of their rotation. But, I mean, he's done everything he's had to do up until now.
So he's been targeting opening day, working towards opening day, but really quickly, what do you think the chances are that he gets there?
You know, I got to think that, I mean, there's just so many signs that point to the Angels just taking a really conservative route with Garrett. Given the fact that he's 26, given his stuff and how important that he is, I think when you take a long-term look at a season, being on an opening day roster, as much as Garrett would like to, it's not really that big a deal. The most important thing is that Garrett is 100% healthy, 100% confident in his knee. I could really easily see the Angels starting him off on the disabled list, letting him make a start or two in AAA before he comes back up, especially because they've added some rotation depth. They're going to have 3 guys in camp competing for the 5th spot of the rotation: Hector Santiago, Nick Tropiano, and Andrew Heaney. I could very easily see 2 of those guys filling a void in the rotation until Garrett comes back. So that's a really likely scenario. On the other side of that, if Garrett comes into spring training and is dominating spring training hitters like he has the last couple of years, how could they really say no to the guy?
Alden Gonzalez in Anaheim, thanks so much for the time. We'll talk to you again soon. So, you know, I wonder, did I make too much of it? You know, did they get swept because they didn't have Garrett Richards?
Well, I don't know if they got swept because of it, but it was definitely an impact. I mean, this is a guy that was a Cy Young candidate going into when he got hurt. This is a guy that helped this team win 98 ball games, run away basically with the AL West. I mean, they weren't the same team without him. And they need a guy like that to come in this year, solidify the rotation. This guy's got top-end rotation stuff. You saw the velocity on his fastball, 96 miles an hour. This guy has the ability to shut down offenses. Like I said before, that's the kind of guy you need to go into the postseason with.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially the postseason scenario. Stuff is going to win, and he's got the stuff that plays up, which the rest of the rotation, while good, doesn't really have it. But who has that kind of stuff? A scout told me last spring training, I don't know how anybody hits this guy. We saw the average fastball velocity. The curveball and breaking ball are so good. He threw 961 breaking balls last year. No home runs, 5 doubles. That was it on extra base hits. So you have to honor both the breaking ball and the 98.
I did an Angels-A's game in Oakland. It was a couple years ago. It's just before Garrett Richards became Garrett Richards in his breakout season. And I went in and talked to Mike Scioscia about him. He was starting that day. And he says, Bernsey, let me tell you something. This kid has the nastiest stuff in the game. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, is he just telling me this because he's his manager? And do you talk about every player like that and spend 5 minutes with Scioscia and you realize, no, he tells the truth on guys. And the truth was this kid had the nastiest stuff in the game. He was 96 to 98 miles per hour that day, a moving fastball with a filthy, filthy slider. And I think what the big progression really of Garrett Richards last year was he learned how to control that slider. He threw it more for strikes. He threw it where he wanted to throw it in the zone. He wasn't hanging hardly any, if any, like you said, no home runs through the course of the entire season. Impressive, impressive. They need him back, and they need him back healthy.
Well, hopefully he gets back soon. He's an awful lot of fun to watch.